All right, checking, making sure that we are live.
Great. All right. So I think
We
we
are
can
live.
start then.
Yes, we're good.
All
I'm up.
right. so, so welcome to South Florida Cloud Native and Kubernetes Meetup, an official community group of CNCF. My name is Hitomi Mizugaki. I'm a organizer of this group and also co-founder of Cuemby, which is a startup specializing cloud native technologies. So welcome to our meetup again. And those of you, some of you, welcome back. So we took a break a few years during the COVID, and now we are back with a new logo, as you can see, and also a new page on CNCF. So, as we informed you via email, CNCF officially ended using the Meetup platform. And now all the community groups have been moved to their community page. So for those who like to receive updates and any information about our meetup group, please make sure to subscribe to our page under CNCF, as you can see on the screen. So here's the link. So let's dive into our topic. How can cloud native help to achieve a faster time to market by Angel Ramirez? So he is going to present the topic tonight. Angel, take it
Awesome.
away.
Thank you, Hitomi, and welcome back, everyone. Yeah, it's been a while. So for today, I actually pick up a topic that is not going to be way too new. So because I'm not to start way to the beginning, but at the same time, it's not too advanced because I want to make sure that at least on this coming back at event, we have something that everyone can enjoy and everyone can consume in a good way. But I want to make sure that you're aware before we start with the topic. Anyone wants to speak, just contact us and make sure that you drop us a line, and we will include you. This is a community event. We want you all to be part of the community and help each other, right? So let's get it started here. Before, just wanted to give you a brief about me. So I'm a tech leader. I've been in technology for a while already. I've been using Kubernetes, Cloud Native, almost since the beginning. So, and by all means, I'm not a field that I'm an expert. I just a person that love the technology, love the community, and want to share with you all. I've been recently accepted as a CNCF ambassador. Very excited and happy for that. And my main idea here is to share what I know, help the community, build the community. So I'm here for you all. So let me know where I can help you out. And all the stuff that I've been doing is I'm a certified administrator. I've been helping with the exam curator team, and also been advising startups. But that is enough for me. So I'm gonna go into the topic. So the interesting here is that I want to cover the topic in five different subtopics. So the first thing is how how the topic can be evolved. And the first thing that we had to talk about is like, what is cloud native, right? So that's the first topic that we're gonna look into it today, and that means that you're getting curious, right? And then next we're gonna answer who needs the cloud native. Following, we're going to talk about why do we require or need cloud native, when, and last but not least, how. So once we answer those five elements, I'm hoping that you all feel more comfortable with cloud native if you're not, if you don't know about it. And if you do know about cloud native, that will give you a confirmation of if a cloud native is something that you want to continue pursuing, right? So the first thing is let's start with like, what's cloud native, right? And cloud native is just focusing on in building applications that are shifting a little bit into their architecture and focusing more into like containers, microservices, orchestration. But at the end, what you're trying to do is leveraging the cloud platforms. And when I mean cloud platform, I'm not mean only cloud providers. I mean cloud platforms that are ready for you to use, and then you can basically shift all those. traditional elements that you have in your infrastructure and architecture and use it towards that. But at the end, that is this stage is usually when you are getting curious, right? It's like I want to know what it is. I wanted to understand a little bit more. So this is interesting because most of the people in their cloud journey, or let's say cloud transformation journey, most of the time in this stage they just drop, right? Because it's way too much information. It's all over the place. I know there is a huge hype about cloud native and Kubernetes, but that unfortunately is where most of the people dropped in the attention. But I want you to tell you, those that are in this stage, no, it's not that complex. It really is not. That's why I want to highlight those components, is because all you have to make sure that when you're going to understand what is cloud native, just think about that. You are building something that is leveraging already cloud computing, cloud platforms using containers, microservices, and orchestration. Okay? So, but what's next? Well, then we need to figure out who needs it. And I call this stage the looking for validation. Typically, what happens is that people in this stage, they just want to find another company or another entity or someone or a friend that already went through this and give them enough information to kind of compare to see if this is something that it matches with what I want, with what I need. So in this case, what I usually say is wait, who needs it is basically if you are in the stage where you want to modernize your architecture, you want to modernize your application, you want to do that next step, then this is the cloud native is actually right for you. Typically, people ask me like, "Well, anything that I want to modernize?" No, and I want to basically do my typical answer is like, if you're developing a website or something like that, no, just use what is already out there, develop your website, put it there, and you'll be fine. Now, remember that cloud native and Kubernetes, these technologies are built for distributed systems, right? So you are looking for something that is going to be robust, and you need to build a lot of stuff. If you build a website, you can go and use Wix and anything like that, you'll be fine. You don't need to actually start writing all that from scratch. So that would be my caveat on this stage, because I know that sometimes like, oh, cloud native for everyone, Kubernetes for everyone. No, it is not for everyone. That's why this step is actually very important. You need to find that validation. You need to see, well, am I building something that already someone did? So then that makes sense to start validating with like a called pure validation. Let's put it that way. So once you validate, like, okay, so I understand what cloud native is. I'm getting there. Cool. I have enough information. I've already validated with a couple of peers, and it seems like what I'm doing is a good candidate for it. Then you need to find out why. Because one thing is like, who needs it, and why I need it is a different story. And this is what I call the mixed feelings. Because you might find a peer and say, oh, yeah, he used it, it went well, using it, and no, the experience is great. Yeah, that is a good validation. You are in the same space, maybe you're in the same industry, or maybe it's a competitor, but is yours needed? And that's where I want to separate two things. First, if you are in an MVP stage and you just proving out stuff, at this point is where I see like maybe you can just continue doing what you're doing until you prove your market, and then you can start getting into cloud native tools after that. Or if you build it from scratch using cloud native, good for you. You already have that step done. But if you're not in that stage and you haven't moved a little faster, or you haven't got to the next stage where, hey, I already proved my idea, now I need to grow, usually it's where I see people dropping the cloud native adoption. And the reason is because the other two, you start getting into more stuff that you need to learn. There's a learning curve that we're going to talk about later. So this is where you need to analyze and assess, do I need it or do I require it now? That's the most important part. Now, of course, there's some indicators that you can use. Is like, do I need to build faster? If that answer is yes, you might need it. Do I need to scale? Am I getting a lot of scalability issues, and my traditional architecture is not working? That's a good important indicator there. Do I need to be flexible, resilient, reliable? So those are really good indicators of like you might need to become a little more cloud native. And as one of the most important ones, the one that I really appreciate is the resource utilization. Sometimes we like to like turn on the key and let some resources be running out and not worry about it because we got credits or whatever. So this is where you might want to make sure that your architecture, your infrastructure is scales with you alongside, right? So and there's ton of tools out there that help you do that. So there's no one tool or one size that fits all. But these are good indicators of where you might need now the cloud native adoption. So we're getting into the almost the last two. So this is important now. That is to try to recap real quick. I know what is. I already did a peer validation. So and now I understand that in my case I need it. I said that I already say yes, I need it. I'm screaming for it. I want to become more cloud native. So the last two steps. All right, when, right? So before we were saying how, if I require it, and the reason why I say now is because you might say, yeah, I want it now, but are you ready for it? And this is where the when comes in, because you could be saying, I want it, let's do it. And you can basically say, let's start doing that cloud native nuance in my infrastructure, but we might not be ready. So this is when you need to define the when, and the when usually is based on resources that you may have, the technical expertise that you might need to, because that's where the learning curve is coming up, right? So some of the indicators that I use to say when is like when you need to either scale or when you need to modernize, because usually is you in two stages. Either you are building something new, and when I mean something new, I just want to make a caveat here, because sometimes people say, well, but I already have a product, and I'm not building something new. So maybe you have a product, a primary product, and you're building a new offering, right, on the product. You might want to then at that point say, hey, I want to try this new thing on this cloud native, but not touching this one. So you have that as a lab, I would say. So that is a way to say new, or you can be a brand new from scratch doing it. Or you can then say, hey, I want to modernize what I have because it's not enough. That's when usually is defined the when. And of course, that comes with two things. Do I have the people to do it? Do I have the time? Do I have the money? And everything is about those three key aspects, right? So that's where it defines the when. Um, Usually, then you may have to find people to do it. Maybe you have to find the resources and all that. So, but let's assume that you already went from the what, how, uh, when, and that you're now making it personal, right? So when you're making it personal, then you have to commit, and uh, and the commitment comes into, I believe, one of the most important one is like, how can we now become cloud native? And it's basically the sum of all the four items that we discussed before, because it comes with adopting a range of new practices. Cloud native, in my opinion, is something that it shifts completely your mind. You had to now think in a different way, and yes, we're talking about all these new containers, services, microservices, event system, design patterns. All that is still applied from the traditional infrastructure, but in this case, you now basically shifting your infrastructure to use other type of technologies. So your technology stack is going to grow a little more. So that's where you say you need to commit. And that's you create a plan, you make sure that everything works, or basically looks that it's going to work in the first in the best way, and that's how you start defining your how. This is most of the time, in my experience, where you typically, it looks like, once you commit you do it, but there's a lot of drops of adopting cloud native in this stage. It's actually this almost the same as the first stage, because in the first stage you drop because you don't know. In this stage now you drop because you know what really takes to do it. So that's where basically, it kind of balance it out, and those two, have most of the trouble company that say, yeah, I can't do this, it's way too much, so we might have to find a different approach, or maybe they just say no, and not do it. But the good news here is, like, if you commit, there is plenty of resources out there, and I will share the links later on the presentation about where to find those resources. They're open source, they're for free, you can get them. And this is where I want basically most of the companies to be, like, using the resources that are out there, so you can become cloud native, but you can also get all the benefits. So of course, it's been a lot of a bit of a mouthful. So I'm sure you have the question, like, okay, you can you simplify all you said here in your, thank you for sharing all that, but I didn't got anything. So glad you asked, because I'm gonna summarize it. And I'm going to summarize it in these 4 points. First, I mean, you need to know what is in it for you, and what basically are your benefits. So first, you get rapid application development. When you become cloud, when you adopt it in the right way, then you get starting faster development. And when I mean development, new products, new features, everything goes faster, because now you are automating more, and that's actually one of the last steps. But that's kind of where it goes. You get a scalability. You won't have to wake up at 4 in the morning like we all used to do, and push the button because, hey, by the way, you got a spike and your servers went down, or your application was not ready. So that is where the benefit comes in of the scalability. You get more agile. So that means that you can now adopt new methodologies a lot faster. So one thing is to be able to get rapid development. Another thing is to now you get flexible on those deployment development that you want to do, because you might want to try new things. And now that you're a client, if you basically try test all those out a little more easier than if you're in a traditional infrastructure or a traditional setup. And last but not least, definitely is the automation, because at the end, the mentality of the cloud native also comes with the automation. You want to do the less human error possible. And this is where, I mean, I'm gonna bring the Kubernetes example real quick. So now you got the Kubernetes where you went from managing maybe servers using tools, or maybe using yourself manually. Now you're managing containers for thousands and thousands of containers, and Kubernetes does that very well. So that's a way to orchestrate all those components. So the same thing happened with your process. You're now going to be able to automate more process, more environments, so you can get more benefits of it. So, of course, not always everything is good. So you have to know what really is your learning curve. What do I need to basically focus on in order to become a little more cloud native, or to adopt cloud native? So at that point, then you get into the okay, learning new stuff like containers. I mean, and I'm saying container because Kubernetes is 100% based container. So you need to learn containers. You need to make sure that your applications are being able to be containerized. And this is something that I see a lot. Like sometimes people want to adopt cloud native, and we look into it, into the architecture, and say, "Oh wow, your containerization is actually a little more complex than you think." So there's some work that needs to be done there. So that is a learning curve. You also need to be more open to, and we use the word microservices, and sometimes it's more like a overused. I think it's more talking about distributed applications, where could be microservices, could be events, could be whatever you have or you need in your system. But at the end, they all decouple, and they all doing different functionalities, and you need to be able to orchestrate them. So that is where you get most of the benefit, right? Because here's one example. Let's say that you have multiple services, multiple offerings, orders, and you have, I don't know, users. When a traditional application, when using like monolithic applications, you have to scale the whole thing if only, let's say, orders are the ones being stressed. Why? Because everything is together. So when you decouple them, regardless of the type of architecture you do, in this case we say microservices, but it could be anywhere in a different style. Now you're getting, a little more flexibility in terms of scalability. Now let's say that only orders is the one that gets stressed. You scale that one and just that one. If you get other different offerings, you can scale them independently, which is one of the biggest benefits of Kubernetes and cloud native tools. And the third one is DevOps. Now DevOps becomes like the huge fast. Everyone is talking about DevOps. Everyone wants to be DevOps now, and it's great because that is needed. DevOps, it helps basically with the automation side between all these process, in making sure that everything could be as continuous as possible. Here's where I get a lot of like mixed comments about like, should I make everything continuous, continuous development, continuous deployment, continuous release, continuous everything, and we can have a whole talk about that later in another time. But at the end, the whole point is making sure that you can make as continuous as possible all your process, including deployment, releases, and building. So that is where DevOps come in and actually save a lot of time on the process, but it still is something else that you need to learn, something else that you need to include in your ecosystem and your technology. And last but not least, we're talking about the mindset. We've been talking about that since I started. I think that was kind of the first word that I mentioned, because everything changed. And something very interesting that I talk to when I'm talking to the community is like, oh, okay, right, like, should I look into Kubernetes the same way that I see my traditional infrastructure? And the answer is no, because Kubernetes, the way that I learned it is was like, I'm now shifting my mind between, I have a bunch of servers into, I have a pool of resources available to me through a system that is able to orchestrate them in a lot faster, smarter way. So that's the way that I learn it. That's the way that I consume that information. And that's kind of the shift in mindset that I basically saying. The way that I also teach other people when I'm talking to the community, with my friends, my peers, is like, in Kubernetes, you have to start learning the Kubernetes way, and get benefit of that. And I'm talking about here like, should I, let's say I have applications, and do I have to rely on, I don't know, events, right? So, well, should I consume my own events, or should I consume what already Kubernetes is providing for me on the ecosystem? It's already built in, so it's already there. Should I consume it? Should I not? So those are the type of question that change your mindset. Like, how much can I use Kubernetes that, instead of me building something? That's kind of what I want to say with the mindset. And there's plenty of stuff that we can cover on the Kubernetes side, that will most likely something that you in the traditional architecture will have to build, versus is already built and is already in the ecosystem. So that is the fourth element that I will say that definitely will change. Of course, there's a lot more involved in this process of learning curve, but I brought up the main four that I saw when I'm talking to different companies, talking to different people. That these are the four elements that actually, you know, gets in the way, I will say, when you're adopting cognitive. So at this point, it's more about weighing what really, what the benefits against the adverse that you might have to face on this process. The good thing is, like, once you get it the successful, of course you enjoy all the benefits and more. So I'm gonna make a pause here. I don't know if there's questions or if any comments you told me, because I think I've been way too fast. Any
No,
comments?
no, it was wonderful. Thank you. I do have some questions, Angel.
Shoot it.
Yes. So, like many industries are going through, digital transformation, from like payment processing to medical to, even like farming, in all industries. And I think that may require them to go to cloud, most likely. Not all of them, but and I believe that currently like 95% of businesses are in the cloud or at least use some kind of cloud computing, and according to like some kind of statistics. But going going cloud doesn't mean that you're on a successful path to digital transformation, right? So you mentioned like resources, money, I think knowledge to be able to go through like cloud adoption. But what else do organization need for successful transition to using cloud native technologies?
Um, well, here's the thing. So let's look in two ways. Let's say into like, um, well, I'm a company that want to adopt cloud native, and I'm a person in the community that want to adopt cloud native. So they're gonna have two different challenges, right? So and I'm gonna answer the company first. Yes, I think that will be very straightforward because it will be linked at this one. Companies, most of the challenges are on the expertise, and the expertise comes out of the experience and knowledge and the talent. So let's put it this way: there might be a huge company with a great track and everything, but everything is traditional. So we're talking about now that you might have to invest and get your people in that company to basically shift all this mindset, learn all these learning curve, all these technologies. That is something that definitely will be a challenge, right? I'm not saying that it's not impossible. Actually, there's a lot of success case on the CNCF website of big companies that used to be very traditional and now they are fully cloud native. So it's amazing the way that it's being adopted and the way that actually provide value. So that is on the company side. Now, on the community side, let's say I'm a person, I want to get into this. Like, what are going to be my challenge? Well, your challenge is going to be like, even though that there's a lot of success, a lot of cases that you can relate to and actually learn from, not every company that you might join will have that available to you. So I'm a person in the community. I joined company A and I want to test my Kubernetes, all my cloud native knowledge. You might not find all of them, and it sounds like funny, but then, I mean, uh, even though there is a lot of growth, a lot of stuff in cloud native, a lot of adoption, because there's a lot, is still less than what really needs to happen. There's a lot of companies that they want to adopt, but like I said, they drop in multiple stages because those are challenges. So as a member of the community that I want to get into this, there's two things. You have the opportunity to actually make the difference, because if you've learned all this technology, if you actually become an expert, let's not say expert, someone knowledgeable enough to implement cloud native technologies in your day-to-day work environment, you're gonna basically make it because it's gonna be really good for you. You're gonna bring a lot of value to your company, but at the same time, you're gonna have the challenge of like proving why it's important to use this, and that comes back to the say like why. That those five elements that I covered at the beginning, is literally the same challenge that if you are a member of an organization that wants to implement this, you're gonna have to face. That's why I'm bringing this to you, so you basically have the tools to go and say, no, I love Kubernetes, I love Cloud Native, and I know that all these benefits are gonna be valuable for the organization. So this is what it looks like. So because that's basically what I see on those two sides, the company side and the as someone of the community that might have that challenge.
Thank you. That's a very good response. Um, so, actually, to your response, the I don't know if any of you guys have read the State of the Cloud report from Plexera, and then they said that top four, I believe, struggles that companies are going through that are using cloud native technologies are the cost, rising cloud cost, security, the lack of governance, and then lack of expertise. So even large companies with all the resources struggle to be able to
Mhm.
fully utilize cloud native technologies, right, to overcome these issues. So what recommendation do you have to these companies, and also, like people who are trying to get into the cloud native world, and wondering how they can contribute to solving these problems?
The interesting thing is like the landscape, which I'm gonna share in a second, actually is growing so much. Like there's a lot of tools that help you with this type of challenges already. So I think once again the challenge might still on the operator side. And when I mean operator, it means that the person that knows how to implement these tools or knows how to configure them. And that's why we need more Kubernetes and more cloud native fellows and join us and spread the technology across, is because the tools are there. The tools are there. It's still the expertise and the knowledge where we need more to actually operate them. That's what I see, at least on my side, that I've been exposed. In kind of like say now, what would I recommend? Well, this is exactly what this you actually made the comment on this in the perfect slide, which is this: there are steps and bases that you need to learn as a person to actually start providing value and help to adopt this technology in your organization, or if you have your own startup in your startup. Is this, I mean, basic of containerization, learning in different patterns of how you architecture and create your application architecture, and adopting DevOps. DevOps is going to be huge, especially on the resource side. There's now new terms like FinOps and all that, but at the end it is automation. FinOps, DevOps, SRE. There's a lot of automation involved, because at the end resources are wasted because you just leave it open. That, I mean, I know that that's a way too simplistic way to put it, but that's what it is. When you leave your plumbing open, water is going to run out. Period. It's not going to stop unless you go and close it. Now, how can you regulate that? Is learning automation, making sure that when when you open it only when you need it, and then close automatically even if you forget. So that kind of stuff is where actually it's going to impact a lot on the resource consumption. And there's plenty of tools out there that helps doing that, and you can use it, and they're ready to go. It's more on the operation side, on the configuration side, that you need to learn it. So I think that would be my recommendation in terms of that.
Great, thank you. You mentioned about cloud native landscape, right? I just posted the link, but I don't know those people those of you who have seen it. It's overwhelming. There are hundreds of technologies in each of the section, and I'm sure that as a person who's learning, cloud native technology, it must be really, really overwhelming. So, how do you know which tool to use and then make sure that the technology I choose fit my software's needs?
All right. So, and thank you, because you just cued me to the next slide. So, at the end, if you see here, is it's all about being efficient, agile, and basically getting all these benefits that we were mentioning before. And here's the landscape. And now actually I can show you real quick around the landscape how it looks like. And yes, it is overwhelming, but to be honest, the way that you should navigate, at least my recommendation, the way that I use it, is start from the basics, right? So let sorry about that. So the first thing is I need to have some sort of like a platform where I'm gonna use my resources. So that's where you go and pick your cloud provider or your platform provider, because there's multiple ways to get the Kubernetes in. And this is where you will see it. Like you can either go to like hey, I want a hosted Kubernetes cluster. There's plenty of option here that you can choose from. Or hey, no, I want to do it myself. I want to do it in my way. There are tools actually like Hops or Kubespray that you have resources available, like servers, and you deploy it there. So I would say that would be my first step, going first into the platform side. After that, you're going to start picking into like, well, depends on what really I want to do. You might choose into like straight into the provisioning side. How can I navigate that? There are it's very well com- segregated in the way that they have right here. You might not have to have a lot of options if you go, for example, for a hosted Kubernetes solution. You might not have to choose a container runtime because they already choose it for you. That's okay. All you have to make sure at least that you understand what is the container runtime, what is the storage side, what is the networking side. So that kind of stuff is where I would say that that's my next step, that plumbing. So understanding that, and last but not least, you will end up probably on the application side where, okay, so let's say I want to deploy a database into the ecosystem. These are databases that you can choose from, streaming service application definitions, all that is going to be there. And that will be more towards your need. Now, the reality is it is overwhelming. There's a lot of tools to choose from. You're gonna have a lot of try and error. I'm not gonna lie, but I mean, typically, if you keep it like simple and you start just bringing in what you need, it's gonna be a lot easier than trying to I want to try everything at once. Because that's where you're gonna hit the overwhelming. Some people might say, "Hey, do I need a service mesh right now?" The answer is that maybe, you may not. I mean, so you have to really assess based on the scenario that you have. So that's kind of what I would suggest, to start going to, like, that way, platform provisioning, they go the way up from runtime, orchestration, and an application. So it's kind of go in the same way that you create any infrastructure, in the same layers. Your resources, and then you build on top of that.
That's a excellent advice. Thank you. So I think this meetup is really help anyone who is already experiencing Kubernetes and cloud native technologies, and also those of you that are started to learn. And I think it will really help you unleash the power of Kubernetes and cloud native technology in the software that you're building or managing currently. So I think we would like to bring those useful contents here. So you'll be able to actually like use the knowledge and apply it in a daily your job or your project, right? So
Absolutely.
yeah, great. Thank you very
Actually,
much.
on that note, which I'm pretty sure that we already jumped into the Q&A a long time ago, so it's kind of um, like redundant. But interesting thing that I want to share is that um, the idea here with the meetup is being more like technical areas. This is the first meetup, the first meet after a long time. It's been quite a while since we met. So moving on to next steps, I'm open to start doing like demos of tools, testing stuff, sharing it with you guys how it works. So I'm more than happy. Let me know what tools, what technology you want me to test from the landscape and show you some demos. And the reason why is because I've done it already a lot of time. I'm actually want to introduce here a quick shameless plug to our sister community on Medellin, Colombia, which actually is growing a lot. We have like over 1,000, 13,000 members, and that's what we do every Thursday. We do like a different tool. We test it out. We show how it works, how it doesn't work. We show them, like, sometimes we even make errors, and we fix it in live. So that's what the same setup I would love to have here. Of course, I'm not the only speaker in that event, but in the same here, I would love to have more speakers. And so if you wanna speak, if you wanna bring your knowledge, you don't have to be an expert. I don't think I'm an expert either. We just want to share in the community, like, what we know, what we don't know, how we can solve some issues, so everyone else can get interest on Kubernetes and cloud native, and and spread the word. So that is the purpose of the reactivation of the meetup, so we can actually bring the South Florida community back up into the what is supposed to be after a long time that we were away. I would love to do it live, actually in person.
Yes,
So
definitely.
I mean, if anyone have any space and want to donate the space and want to be part of the community, welcome. Because we are right now in the Delray Beach, Boca area, Boynton. So anyone there that want to donate the space, very appreciated. So we can start doing more in person events for the South Florida. And I want to do one more invitation to the event that we're going to be doing here in Colombia um, in June. It's going to be the first in-person KCD in Latin America, and I invite the people in Florida because Floridian we also are almost Hispanic. We're very close, so I think anyone on the South Florida side might appreciate to join and basically be on this event. We're expecting a lot of people. We're expecting over 800 people on this event. So opportunity to meet up with their peers, meet people, know more about Kubernetes and cloud native. So I'm kindly inviting you. So the links are there, and we're gonna copy and share on the comments as well if that's needed.
Great. Yes. My goal is that, we'll be able to gather locally and then do a KCD South Florida. That'll be awesome.
That
So,
would be
yes. So, KCD is a Kubernetes Community Days. It's a small event. We have the KubeCon, that attracts thousands of people. But KCD, local members gather and they do workshops and also talks. So, this is happening in Colombia, and the first one in South America. But, hopefully we'll be able to do that here in South Florida in the future. So, you know, um, anyway, thank you very much for joining. And then again, as a reminder, if you haven't, our meetup group moved to CNCF, community page. So please subscribe to the community page so you'll be able to get all the updates and information from there. CNCF ended the use of the meetup platform. So
yep.
in order for you to get all the information, you need to move to CNCF South Florida platform. So just a reminder, okay?
Absolutely. And I'm gonna post the link real quick here, just in case. Also, so it gets recorded on the chat. So I posted in there. So if anyone needs, more than happy. Awesome. Thank you, Jose. Jose, thank you so much. We got Jose here online as well. Um,
Great.
Awesome. All right. That's all I got for today. Like I say, it's a reactivation meet. So looking forward to the ones coming next. For now, we're gonna keep it every 4 weeks. More than happy to have more speakers. It doesn't have to be only in South Florida. More happy to get the speakers everywhere. So looking forward to it. All
Thank
right.
you.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.